I can't even use I Sense the Mabel. I already used I Sense the Mabel. Damn. I need more.
Oh, you've
Yeah.
done that a long time ago. I always wonder, like, you know how I have the dad joke at the beginning? I'm always like, have I ever reused
No,
one?
you're pretty good on that.
Because we're on episode 88 now. I don't write them down. I used to write them down, but I haven't written them down in a long time. I just like whatever topic it is. I'm always wondering. We've done so many X-Men episodes. Those are ones I'm most conscious about. Like, have I reused this yet? Because there's been so many.
And we're back again doing another X-Men episode. Because we haven't talked about X-Men in a long time. I think there's actually more dad jokes in the universe than there are credible Simpsons, even bad Simpsons jokes. I think there's more actual dad jokes because everything turned into a dad joke. But God damn it, I love a good Simpsons joke. And the only one I can think of right now, I was going to say, it says to Mabel, is to begin, push any key. Where's the any key?
Where's the any key? I was like I'm sorry, your fingers are too fat to dial.
They give the dial tone, like. Yo, when they were rocking,
speak up. I'm wearing it.
When they were rocking those, like first, like from season 2 to like 9, almost 10, near perfect. They could do no wrong.
When does it go back? Is it 12?
Yeah. I'll send you the.
12.
I found a chart on Reddit, and they have someone like put in all of their IMDb scores, and like you see from season 1 to 10, it's all green. And then everything else starts to go like orange, yellow, and then it's like just red. It's just like terrible episodes by the time we're in 30s.
So is it a complete downward slope, or is there peaks within that orange?
It's a drop off, but they don't reach the same consistency of greens per season. So you'll still have a green episode, but they're few and far. Where like episode 4, every fucking episode is hilarious.
Oh, season
4, right? Season 5, like. The amount of 8s and 7s that they're pulling is just insane. And so that amount of quality you're getting per episode and joke that they used to slam in there, because you're getting a joke between Homer and Bart, you're getting a joke between Bart and Lisa, you're getting a sight gag, you're getting a Itchy and Scratchy, you're getting a story plot that made sense, you'd get a Mr. Burns laugh, you get a Flanders laugh. They'd squeeze all that in, and all of that would be funny. That as you grew, you'd keep watching and find a new reason to laugh. The later episodes didn't have that sort of structure building, so there's only like 1 or 2 good jokes, and then the story's just like so far-fetched because they used all the best stuff in those prime seasons, and they didn't really know what they're doing to their characters. So we're following Bumblebee Man for like 13 minutes, and you're like, all right, like this joke's kind of old now, right?
That's funny. See, my thing with them was I always loved is that I never knew what episode it was until like halfway through the episode, because the first few minutes, like you were saying, right, it's just something.
They had amazing cold opens, right? And like half the reason why I love Malcolm in the Middle is like they have amazing a cold open before the credits. Now Simpsons are better because they give you like 5 or 10 minutes of a completely different idea, so it's almost 2 episodes,
and then it is, it'd be like an episode and a half every episode because it was something else, right?
But when we were young,
do you think they waited too long? To make the movie?
No, I think they waited too long to call it quits. Because I think
it's not done
yet. No, they're
in
season 35, but I think they're signed on to 38. I think they're trying to make it to 40. But this could have been a Futurama thing where they could have called it quits in, let's say, 20, and then just done a movie every year.
How long did Futurama go?
It says 11 seasons, but it wasn't 11 years, right? And they did 4 movies.
Okay, yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, because I thought you were going to say like 20. I was like, there's no way it went past like 12 or 15. Futurama was around.
I think it's only like 7 years, to be honest with you.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But there's so much. It got canceled twice. Fox didn't like it. Comedy Central couldn't hold it, and then like now they went straight to the internet. And so,
but it has a cult, right? Like it has a cult following.
That, and then there's Groening did another one called Disenchantment, which is all.
Yeah, I watched a bit of that one.
It takes time for it to grow on you, but once you lock into the characters,
did you watch it?
I'm on the second volume of it. There's still like I think 3 more seasons. But like again, I love anything that Groening touches because I think that guy is
right.
Like imagine that's your life. Oh man! And if you're a voice actor, $1 million a show. So I'm not trying to call it quits at any time.
I always said like the guy, I don't know, I remember his name, but the guy who like voices Homer has got it made.
Damn it!
Because he's rich as shit, famous as hell. Like when he puts that voice on, but if he was at the grocery market, most of the public would recognize him. Like, he doesn't have to worry about all that nonsense. He's just like rich and happy.
Dan Canalesta.
What's the one? I knew it was like a lost syllable in the last name.
And he's had like a
Come on.
serious acting career before he found Simpsons. Like he was actually in stuff, right? He wasn't maybe the lead on anything, but he's always popped up. And then like amazing cameos in Arrested Development, just because they knew Arrested Development's such a meta type of show. If you never got into Arrested Development, so they'll point out the joke that you know that the joke's happening there. They were doing the Leo DiCaprio pointing at the screen before it was cool to point at the screen. Yeah,
Oh, really?
because you never got into Arrested Development.
No,
one of the funniest shows until like season 4, and then it's not. It's just that's a whole back at it again. That's a whole back at it again. I can't. I'm gonna get into a whole other. I already wanted a tangent on Simpsons, and I'm in love with that show, and that show's the quality's severely dropped off. So if I'm talking about Arrested Development, which had arguably one of the best ensemble casts, I'll be talking all night, and we have to talk about other things. So back at it again, like we never left. Coke and Dank and Coke. We are, I guess, reviewers for 90s Fox sitcom TV shows, which I wouldn't be mad for. I mean, listen, Simpsons, Malcolm in the Middle, and Arrested Development all had the same Sunday at one point, and I was picking shit. I think The Tick was one of the things on there. Futurama was a lead in, then early Family Guy when it was still cool. So there's something in the water for Fox during those times. I gotta look that up now.
Sunday evening shows.
And then I remember when Simpsons used to come on Thursday nights.
Hey, Dan.
Not even talking about what we're supposed to talk about. Hey, Coke.
Where do ghosts go on vacation? Malibu.
That's all right. That's good.
This is fine.
It's serviceable. It's a dad's joke.
No, it's fine.
It's not better than your fingers are too fat for this faux pad.
Oh, man. Can you speak up? I'm wearing a towel.
I came here to watch a film. Hey, Tubby, I got a film for you. A fridge too far. like
Don't cry for me. I'm already dead.
We go round.
That wasn't even funny, but it was hilarious.
That's the voice acting. The voice has made it funny.
Yeah.
Come on.
Did something crawl down your throat and die?
It didn't
die.
Listen, I'm gonna find it.
Or just Smithers, and like when he's sleeping, he has the dream of.
It comes to the
It's the sound he makes.
If we can do ASMR on just Simpson related sound effects, I'm for it. I'm all for it. Because now I have to slot in. Now I have to slot in some Simpson related comic book again, so we can keep talking smack about the TV show.
It's not me. Touch. That's like our motto now.
Like a good weekend, like back and forth. Like no, these kids are wrong. These kids are wrong. They're so wrong.
I gotta watch all of the Simpsons as like an adult now.
It's pathetic.
Appreciate every joke.
Bro, it still holds up. It's still wall to wall laugh. Like you pick a random episode, especially with Skinner being Skinner, like true Skinner.
And it's one of those shows that you can you rewatch and you laugh just as hard the second time, like the other times you watch it as you did the first time. It's so.
There was a moment in my life where I could watch Simpsons 3 times in a day, and I did. Off of just cable, playing it on different spots. I was like, yes. Give it all to me.
Yeah, we're watching it all.
Amazing.
Okay, what we're really here to talk about. Ghost Machine.
That is a Ghost Machine. Sounds ghost.
So, you're a baby. How's that working for you?
Nothing was accomplished. So good.
I don't need to wear gloves because I'm Homer.
That's our.
And then there's the cold, like
that's our Homer.
A hard cut to the tombstone.
Here limes Frank Grimes, or as his friends like to call him, Grimy. Damn. Homer undefeated, bro. Homer's the internet.
Oh, so good. Are we done?
for now.
Are we done?
There's more
Like,
as soon as as soon as you push rap, then we're gonna talk more Simpsons.
I'm gonna rename this episode Simpsons Appreciation.
Well, we just have a hard cold open where we talk about Simpsons, then we get into what we're actually gonna do, which
That's
is
right.
yeah.
Which is Ghost Machine. Which Wikipedia, I was trying to summarize it because it is like a new branch of Image Comics where it's like a shared universe within Image Comics. But Wikipedia says Directly is an American cooperative media company founded in October 2023, which publishes creator-owned comics through Image Comics and was founded to help the participating creators to benefit from the development of its intellectual properties.
Huh.
So that it's the basis is shared universe, but the creative teams get full credit for their
Individual works.
creation. Yes. So unlike Marvel and DC, where you can create things within that umbrella, but it belongs to the label, not the creators. So pretty cool. Pretty cool. Great idea.
Except
A lot of
the
big
stuff
names
you have to
behind it.
create has to be good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of key people like Brad Meltzer, Jeff Johns, Brian Hitch, Gary Frank, Francis Manipool, Peter Tomasi, Jason Fabok, Lamont McGee, Ivan Race, Madel Zoot. Like, there's a whole bunch of people like from all over the place, well-known comic creators, artists, and authors. And we are going to cover that because I'm all over the place. I'm starting over, but we're going to cover that because we love covering writing, and creator-owned stuff is amazing. So, yeah, we're going to cover Geiger 1 and 2, Red Coat 1 and 2, and Rook Exodus 1 and 2. By the time the public hears this, the third issues for all these are going to be out, and then some probably, depending on when you hear this, but we're going to cover 1
And
and 2.
we'll ultimately decide which one of these titles we will follow up with to see if it's still good.
Yeah.
Also a new rule for Coke and Dank. We no longer just first glance single issue comics. We will now do the first 2 issues of whatever first glance we're looking at for a better, fuller understanding of what that writer, artist, and team is trying to portray. Because in our previous kind of first glances, there's always been a hiccup of it seems like the author is setting up something that doesn't really come as a payout until the second issue, and you kind of rob the reader. So we don't really feel we're giving the best review or the best kind of foot forward of what the author's intent is. So we've decided to make a little change to our processes, and I think it's a good one.
Because I think so too. Because that first issue is always just the hook,
Yeah.
right? It's like, here's the hook, but we don't really get. You kind of get a taste of what the book is about. You don't really get a sense. You read a couple issues in, it's like, because usually when I used to collect comics just randomly, I just grab 1 or 2. I'd grab 1 and I'd be like, I gotta grab a second one because I kind of. And then after you read 2 issues, sometimes 3, but usually 2, you kind of have, okay, I see where this is going. And then that was enough for me personally to make a decision on whether I'm going to continue.
First issues usually come off like a trailer, just giving you a tease of like what could happen.
Right.
Like this means this and this could mean this, but you don't really know. So I'm tired of saying I'm not going to read anything further because I don't get enough information. That Coke's like, all right, cool, make a change, and we made a change.
Yeah,
let's do it.
So that's that. I'm on the official Ghost Machine website right now too, just to get it right. I can read the descriptions of what these 3 characters are, or we can just kind of get rid of it.
Let's give a proper intro since we talked about doing our due diligence.
Yeah, exactly. So Geiger, which is done by Jeff Johns, Gary Frank, Brad Anderson, and
McGeiger.
No,
So I laughed. I lied.
Just Geiger.
That was another Simpsons reference.
Set 25 years in the future of the mysterious unknown war. Husband and father Tariq Geiger lost his humanity in the aftermath of the nuclear war that took his family from him. Now capable of absorbing radiation but struggling to contain it, Geiger is known as the Glowing Man. He's the last person you want to cross paths with, or if you have no one else to turn to help, maybe he's the first.
What a terrible last name omen for him. Your name's Geiger, and then a nuclear storm comes and you become the Green Man. It's like, it's my birthright. It's like, dude, it's in your last name. Like, can be named John Steele and just end up with like a suit of armor. Nope.
Just call himself
McGeiger. We haven't done a Steel book in a long time.
Oh, we've never done a Steel book. You mean a long time?
Oh, that was
Steel.
You weren't there for that one. I guess that was just Me.
No, I wasn't there. It was just you recording.
Just
by
me
yourself?
reading Steel in the privacy,
Oh, just reading.
privacy of my own washroom. Just, gotta get my Steel on.
Then there's Redcoat, written by Jeff Johns, Brian Hitch, Brad Anderson, Rob Lee, Andrew Curry. Reluctantly fighting for Britain during the American Revolution, Simon Pure stumbles upon the Founding Fathers' secret mystical organization and inadvertently gains the power of immortality. Jaded by humanity over the decades, Simon becomes a cheeky mercenary looking for a hot meal and to make some easy money while pursued by an endless list of deadly enemies, ex-lovers, and bill collectors.
Do you think he was just looking around at each one of his pieces of clothing and was like, I don't want him to call me Black Boots. So let's go with red. Let's go with Redcoat.
Well, they called them they called them that in the Revolutionary War, which but he could have been blonde hair.
There's other blonde hair people though.
Redcoat. No, there's lots.
You think he's the only Redcoat?
Yeah. There's now.
Yeah, now.
Now he is. He's the only Redcoat. Yeah. And then there's Rook Exodus, written Jeff Johns, Jason Fabuk, Brett Anderson, Rob Lee, same old guys. A struggling farmer from Earth was given a second chance in a world where every aspect of nature was controlled by humanity, including the winged scavengers who plagued his crops. Now called Rook, the farmer became one of the wardens and must choose between trying to escape this war-torn world before its destruction or fighting to save it. That's the most complicated or vague, I guess, that description of all three books, and that's because it's the largest world. We'll get into all of them. Like I said, we read the first two issues of everything here, so we can break them down a bit, but this one is definitely like the meatiest thing because it's an entire world, not just, I mean, I guess Geiger is too, but
no, you're right.
You know what I'm saying? That's just
and then my question to you is, after how many months do you think that the helmet started to really smell?
Yeah, they must stink because they never showed them washing it out, just all that spit and sweat.
It's apocalyptic, so they're not stopping to take showers at any point, too, right? So you run around talking to pigs and shit. So and pigs in shit.
That's double entendre.
I knew what I was doing. I knew it was waking up. I was recording today, watching some Simpsons after this.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
It's funny how we talked about The Simpsons without actually introducing the show. Did you realize that?
We said back at it again.
We did, but we're like 17 minutes into it. We're like, this is episode 88. Please check out the last episode 87. It's 3 parts of the X-Men 97.
You blanked.
Wow, woo! I blanked hard because I'm looking at the Ghost Machine stuff and I'm thinking X-Men. I gotta look at
X-Men 97, the 2024 animation return to form. We went through that. You can hear if we liked it, loved it, or can't wait to rewatch it. Also, you can find us if you're looking for more things that Coke and Dank do. I guess you can. I think we're on Twitter still. I don't know. I haven't talked to Stabboy in a long time. I haven't talked to Stabboy in a long time, so that may be a broken bridge. But
that's just comic underscore patrol at comic underscore patrol.
Yeah, because we like to say that we are Comic Patrol. Don't forget that. But if you want to talk to us, because you can. But I think Statboy's also running the Gmail because I haven't checked that in a while. You can find us at comicpatrolpod@gmail.com. So there are ways to communicate with us, but until you get an answer back, we'll just talk to each other. Hey, man.
And if these episodes are too long for you, because some people don't want to listen to like an hour or whatever, we have shorter episodes for Arc Analysis where we cover one volume of any books. The last one we did the Scurry books, all 3 of them. Or 2 of them at this point. Maybe I think the third one comes after this, but regardless. Yeah. We do those one volume at a time.
And there's also a pause button, so you can just pause and come back later because technology works that way too. Yeah. So,
people complain like I listen to podcasts, some podcasts that are like 4 or 5 hours long, but then I listen, which takes like a week or 2 to listen to. And by that time, the next episode's out. But then other podcasts, I'm like 45 minutes. So it all depends on the person, right? Like, I don't. So that's what's.
Don't listen to Coke. Listen to us, and even if you're not listening to us, just push play and describe. Give us reviews too. We need a couple 5 stars. Don't put 4 stars, or else we know you're a hater. And I'm stealing that from Bomani Jones, who I also enjoy because I listen to those all the way, and I give 5 stars because if you give us 4 stars, you a hater. It's probably the only time I'm going to steal it, but it's a really good quote. Hey,
it's a great tag.
We should probably talk about Ghost Machine. 20 minutes in.
Okay, first, Geiger, 25 years in the future, right? Radioactive wasteland. We talked about. Oh no, we talked about the preludes
Yes.
before. If you go back to our
Ground Zero episode,
Fordmore arc
yeah.
analysis, we covered the Ghost Machine prelude. So this
which is amazing. Just to touch on that episode, an amazing launch point for if you have a company that has to draw up several titles. If you want us to get a taste of everything that's going on there, give us everything in kind of a microdose or like 31 flavors, and just give everyone a taste, and the audience gets to determine where they go moving forward. Great idea. I don't know if the execution was as strong or it definitely was, because we definitely had favorites walking out of that. But then we've had episodes previous where we talked about entire production comic book houses where they've had several different properties, and we kind of dreamt up the best way of including them all together. But I always love the principle of like, let's just bring all of our characters into one book and see if what sticks.
It's like old school promotion, right? Like that's that arc analysis number 75 was when we did Ghost Machine 1, and it covers all these. So these all follow those prelude issues, which I think are about, I could be wrong, 5-7 pages each. And so in this one, Geiger number 1, he's still being followed by the guy in the knight's armor, which they didn't just start calling him the knight, right?
Yep.
Just knight. And he's kind of pathetic.
Meek, and yeah.
Meek, there you go. That's a perfect word. He's very meek. He's just like, I want to be like you.
Amazing word, but probably terrible rap name if you're going to use Meek in what you want to call yourself. Shots fired.
Yeah.
I never want to be the milliest of Meeks. Just putting that out there.
Well, he's not called. They don't call him Meek. He's just Knight.
I know, but he is Meek.
Yes. Okay, right. Fair enough. Okay, so I was like, wait a second. Did I miss
Meek Coke. I'm building to when I pop out, because I had a pop out tour a couple days ago or last week.
You did?
Well, my friends like Ken, Ken and friends had a pop out.
In the West Coast now?
Have you not seen my name? Did you not look at my name?
No. Oh no, I didn't.
Check it out.
No, I'll have to watch it again.
No, my name. Look at my Zencast name.
Oh, West Coast Dank. Right. Okay. So you're from Englewood.
No, I'm from Brompton. This is not a good sign.
No, not a good sign.
We should talk about this book.
Whenever we get off topic with things, it means we don't really want to talk about the topic of the episode. We eventually get back to it, but
this wasn't a bad. This wasn't a bad book. No. I'm talking about Geiger, because I guess you'll give the beats and eventually story, and it very much looks like a comic. Like the artwork is very detailed in that. It's just there's nothing new. Like I've kind of read this story several different formats from several big houses like a DC or a Marvel. So to get it again as like a relaunch, you could have twisted or changed one thing or two things to make it somewhat original. That would have probably captivated me a little more.
Well, that's the thing, right? In the two issues, it's just kind of actually in my notes I call him the Simp Knight, which is funny. But I just saw that. I only did it once or twice. We learned that the government's following Geiger, and we learned that Geiger learns that there's another radioactive man like him,
which is your favorite trope in comic books.
Yeah, if he's the main villain, I'm done. Because like Dank was saying, it's the whole hero and villain with
power sets,
coinciding powers. Yeah. Like, come on, man. Marvel ruined that for me. Marvel movies.
Hold a mirror up to yourself. Fight yourself. Can you conquer the inner demons by beating the one that looks like you and does exactly what you do?
That's the one thing holding like Black Panther from being
from a top 5.
Just fights. Yeah. No, I think it probably is still.
But you have to look at it as that's what Killmonger wanted. He needed that power set in order to take out the Black Panther, right?
Correct. It's just unfortunate we've seen that so many times before.
Awesome.
We got to there. Anyways,
I didn't make the wheel. I just drive it.
Anyways,
Geiger.
It's just it's like this book. I'm not trying to oversimplify this book here, but it's basically like a follow the leader. Yeah. So there's Geiger who's following the other glowing guy. There's the knight that's following Geiger. Then there's the government that's following
all of
Geiger and the knight, right? And so it's kind of like, all right, how long are you gonna, basically how long are we gonna do this? I'm not impatient yet. I'm not bored of it, but I'm just like, okay, I see what's happening here. It's gonna be like this for 10 or 15 issues, and then it'll kind of lead into something else, right? So in these 2 issues, there's the setup, and then they come to a town that the other glowing man used to live at, and like, okay, well, they talk to the mayor or whatever. It's like, where is he now? And it's like, well, we'll tell you, but you got to do a favor for us, right? And it's kind of, so it kind of becomes like it's almost like a video game, because that's this type of thing that you do in video games, right? Okay, now we got to do a job to do. So why don't you catch this bandit that nobody else can catch and kill him? And Geiger does catch him, but then we find out he's got a family, and he's like, okay, well, does he kill him or not? Because in the beginning of the book, they foreshadow this with the pigs.
Oh yeah, right.
Remember, so they're the very beginning of the book, they're hunting down this boar, and this boar comes to a hole, I guess their nest or whatever you want to call them, and there's a family of boars there, and basically what happens is they can kill them all and have all this food, or they can not kill them all. What ends up happening is Geiger kills the biggest one, I guess the dad of the family, and leaves the babies and the mother. So in this one, you're like, oh, he's gonna do it again with the thieves. He's gonna kill the dad and leave the family. Nope. But what happens is he lets the whole family go, and then pretends he feels. So it's like, oh, he's the hard done by hero with the heart of gold type thing. I'm not making fun of it, but that's just
how it is.
What they've set him up to be, right? Yeah.
It's not great.
No, it's not. It's not. But like you said at the beginning too, it's not bad, but it's not great. There's with so many comic books out there, this isn't gonna be the one for me.
And in so many different ways that you could have made this original, especially with kind of a nuclear center, pun intended. Because if you want to keep going back on the family and play off of that, with this guy actually having nuclear powers, there are so many different twists of this, right? Like, imagine this was a man and his daughter who has all these powers, and he's got to keep his daughter like calm and safe, and while the government's still trying to hunt him down, right? Like, there's fun twists that you could have done, as opposed to making the man the center and essentially kind of every kind of comic book. Like, once you read the Hulk, you can't really do Gamma, and if you're doing Gamma, make it fucking original or so out of the box that it kind of makes me forget about Hulk. And like, this doesn't really do that, right? Like, and I'm a nuclear fan. Like, there's certain scenes where like I love how it's painted. It's just glowing, right? And like the greens that they use, and you can feel that imminent danger because it's literally radiating off of him. But like, the story's kind of bland, and I don't know how you want to tell this story or where you're going with this story, especially since we've given it 2 issues. It's just not something that I would hang my head on if I'm launching a new sort of, I guess, company with Ghost Machine. Like, this isn't the one I'm leading with, right? I'm not walking with like Geiger's our ace in the hole, right? Like, Geiger's kind of a side character, and if it's great, but it's not.
What I would say about this from the organization standpoint is that I would say this is like their safe book, right? Like, it's their, because I'm trying to not use run of the mill,
but like, it is their most comic book comic that they have in
exactly
the fold.
Exactly. It's like Old Man Logan, except with, they've replaced a few things, right? It's like, okay, so this is our safe book because everybody likes a hero who's like grumbling and kind of grouchy, but also, like I said earlier, has a heart of gold. So let's do that, but let's move it in the future where everything's radioactive, and it's gonna link to all, like, a lot of other books, but we'll start here. It also is the most storied too, because I think there's books back in like 20, I could be wrong, 2018, 2020, like a couple short runs.
Yeah, this is they went back to that for sure, because I definitely reread the wrong Geiger first to be like, oh no, that's not it, and then came to this one. I was gonna ask because you made that comment about being a game, and I think you were right. This probably would have been a funner game than it is as a Reasons to Comic so far, right? Nothing's to say that it could change. Mm-hmm. Could you see this being like Red Dead Redemption 2 if they just made one of those guys nuclear? Like, is that something that could have that improved?
Well, I don't know if the I mean, yes. Short answer, yes, it could be. I was just gonna kind of go on this tirade like, oh, I don't know if the world's that lived in, but it's basically, it would be. It's in the future, but because of the nuclear explosion stuff, it's pretty much pared down all of the population to what it would have been like
during the old West, right? Yeah,
during the Old West. So it's almost like a futuristic Old West.
Kind of cool.
which is cool, right? And like the like I said, we don't. It sounds like we're poo pooing on it, but we don't hate it. We don't dislike it. We just kind of aren't really captured
Which
by
is
it, right? Can I? Is that safe to
yes,
say for
this
both
is
of us?
not like I can't believe I
Yeah.
just read this, but that's the hard part of comics. I would rather be something that was terrible and I remember it than something that's just middle of the road. Because once we stop reading this, I'm never going to think about this again, and I don't know if you ever want that as a writer or an artist to just have something that's middle of the pack, right? Like meandering, and like this is something that like maybe it gets a chance to like find its legs by the 6th issue. But if you can get me from the jump with a dude that's basically going green for whatever reason, something's wrong. I think something's wrong. So
Yeah.
we're pulling for it, but
So, yeah.
I'm probably not going to read anything past this. Like this finishes number 3 on all my lists of would you reread this again?
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, and like I'm not gonna read what he said, but I feel the same way. So I'll move on to Red
Oh, I
Coat.
mean, you don't want to shout out
One-
Junkyard Joe because he's coming back in issue 3.
He is coming. Yeah, he is coming. He's coming back. I was gonna talk about those guys later on because there's a bunch of other stories
Fair.
at the end. Because there's more stuff coming out,
Yeah.
right? We covered it in our Arkham Analysis episode number 75 about what's coming, but the ones that are coming up, the most, I was gonna say the soonest. I don't know if that's a word, but the earliest we can just I'll just hit on at the end.
Sounds like a plan.
just quick. But yeah, Red Coat number 1 and 2. This was the book that I expected to not like.
Agreed. This is the one I was like, I can't. This is gonna be bullshit, and was
Yeah.
pleasantly
And then-
surprised how wrong I was about that assumption.
Yeah, agreed. So the year here, we get a couple different years. The year is 1775, 1776 when we start. Then it jumps to 1892. And basically he was drafted into the Redcoat Army like most men were, but he had zero desire or interest in fighting. So he mostly ran from everything that he was involved in, which is
Hilarious.
hilarious. 'Cause
He's a draft. He's a
they show
draft
him-
dodger.
Yeah, and that's essentially why he survived. So one day while squatting in an abandoned church, because he ran away from, that's so funny, right? Like he ran away from all the fights.
Well, like,
so he'd
The
squat.
funny
places.
thing of it is, like, he runs, but isn't smart enough to take off his uniform to be like, let me just hide
No.
this. He stays in the red
He's
coat
not.
constantly, and then gives himself the assigned name as Red Coat, which is just funny because
And then like that's part of his charm, right? He's not smart. He's not the smartest guy around. He's clever.
he,
He's a
he's
rascal,
swashbuckler.
right? But
He's Chris Pratt
swashbuckler.
personified.
Yes.
He's a big
Yeah,
he's a big
exactly. That's
lovable
it, yeah.
lug that he's a dummy, but you're probably gonna end up cheering for him because he says something hilarious.
Is that who you'd want him to play it? If
I
there
was
a
thinking
movie?
Chris Pine because I think he was more slender and more kind of I liked his
That look.
and when he played Captain Kirk in Star Trek, that was what
That
I
was
was
good.
seeing for this kind of character. But there's like a slew of Hollywood actors that are even the new guy that's everywhere now. Glenn Powell would probably be great in this. Of just like charming like young bucks who basically think they're the bee's knees and like the most God's gift to the world, but actually turn out their fuck ups. I think there's a few guys that could play this role that I would definitely enjoy seeing.
Yeah, but anyway, so you're absolutely right. I agree with you. But one day while squatting in an abandoned church, hooded men come in with Ben Franklin, so that was the first. I was
What?
like, oh, we're gonna
Yeah.
do this. We're gonna do like alt
Yeah.
history things, which I think is really really cool. But they come with Ben Franklin to cast a spell. on
Fake
him.
news.
But what happened?
It's fake
Sorry?
news. Old history. It's fake news. It's not real.
Yes. No, not real. But what happens is Simon Pure, the Redcoat, falls from the ceiling and hits him, and the spell hits him instead of Ben
Right.
Franklin, and they're like, I remember the hooded guys when they hit him. They're kind of like, oh, it's he's not worthy. It's fine. But what ends up happening is I guess he is technically worthy, and it makes
Yeah.
him immortal.
Like, ah! And just that scene too, like that's a great artwork too, right? Because for most of the comic, as you're reading it, it's pretty muddled and just solid colors and nothing run of the mill because they're still trying to look like olden times. But that's the first time you kind of see magic and kind of life to this book, as they not only are you getting these crazy blues and whites that look kind of electric, but they're playing around with like the animation style because you get to see multiple versions of him all lined up, so it looks like he's moving fast or like it looks like there's a quantum leap effect happening, and like you appreciate that more. It's like, oh shit, like he really fucked up with whatever he wasn't supposed to do.
Mhm. Now, what is really cool about this is they describe his immortality, because there's different ways to be immortal, right? You just never die, but he can die, but it's only for about 24 hours. Sometimes a little less, sometimes a little more. It depends on, I guess, he doesn't know. Like, he's explaining to him, to the audience, like, oh yeah, I can die, but
It's not how you think.
I don't stay dead. Yeah. And sometimes I guess it's about 24 hours, but sometimes it's a little quicker, sometimes it's a little longer. So, which is funny, because it's like, oh, he remembers dying. He will actually go out of it, and then
the literary device of them showing how he keeps dying, or like how he keeps running into the same sort of history repeats evidence, is they'll show individual panel from 1790, 1827, 1892 of like the same thing essentially he does. Like this one panel I'm looking at, in the first one he's like, you killed my brother. The second one, you killed my father. The third one, you killed my favorite cousin. Right? So it just keeps repeating these sort of mistakes, and it hits so funny for this type of character, because he's not learning from his lessons. He just keeps doing the same dumb thing, including putting back on that red coat. So
and there's another one of that with the women, right? Like the one woman in the 1700s, just like scoundrel, liar, thief, and it's like
all them slapping him. He's like, yep, that's me.
That's what I mean. He's that archetype. Yeah. He's that archetype that's like, oh, he's like that rascal who's like lovable,
lovable lug. You keep cheering for. You want him to pull it together. He's definitely like the Captain Jack Sparrow type. Just like, oh yes. In any other story, Sparrow would probably be the villain, but because he did a funny dance and drinks booze and kind of knows who he is, you cheer for him. Like, all right, cool, we can bend around him.
Yeah. So what ends up happening is, to set things in motion, is the cultists find him in the 1800s. Because remember I said at the beginning, the early stuff with Ben Franklin was 1775, and then we jumped to 1892. And now the cultists find him again. He's like, what? It's like 120 years later. What is going on? And they end up stabbing him with this magical axe that makes him like
susceptible,
combust.
Yeah, randomly. Like changes his organic matter.
Yeah, and he meets a young teenager. I guess he's like 15.
Right? We giving it away or not giving it away?
I think we should, because I think it's cool. I've never seen it. It ends up being Albert Einstein, but I've never seen anything with him this young. It's always, whenever we see Albert Einstein, he's the old man with
gray hair. He's a genius.
He's just a young German kid, and he goes, and at the end of the issue, he's like, "Yeah, my name's Albert Einstein." It's like, oh, these polls are getting me, because I'm like, man, like this all history thing is working for me.
Because that's not the only reference that they bring up. His arch rival, his kind of Moriarty to Sherlock Holmes, is a young Benedict Arnold, which is kind of amazing. So the way that they're interjecting him into what would be history and how it's playing out is kind of fun and subvertive. Like, I'm not expecting it to be this, let alone even though it was like a history comic and we're in 1792, and then we saw Ben Franklin, even though he was a cult leader, like whether or not that's true, conspiracists can go all over it. I wasn't expecting more than that in terms of them trying to put actual facts and historical figures in it. So by the time we got to the second book, when they're actually pulling names of people I know, and then you could kind of see their archetypes play out with how Simon Pure is trying to get through this book, was kind of ingenious. So I definitely enjoyed that.
Yeah, and it's interesting because Simon and Benedict have a history, and then, like you said, they're rivals, they're not friends, but he needs his help for something to kind of to help him out with this axe wound. So it's this push me pull you type situation where it's like, well, why should I help you type thing. So that's kind of where it ends. We don't know how it's going to go on from there. There's a lot
that and a little taste of like it's going to be somewhat it's not Freemasonry, like there's a whole book and everything. Even in like the next issue, the cover has like a book with the Freemason logo on the front. So like another thing that we like tap into that we don't really know about, but this author's going to make a fun spin of what that really means to be a Freemason, right?
Yeah.
So it's cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's really interesting. I don't know how long the legs are on this, because unlike Rook and even Geiger, in a way, the world isn't new. It's just kind of like the elements in it are new. So him and like the alt history thing is we'll see how long they can push that. Yeah, and how much they have, and how many ideas they have, because they can keep it running for a long,
They
long
can.
time, or they can run dry quickly.
Well,
And it's like,
my
well,
assumption was at a certain point, let's say like by issue 10, they were going to jump him forward into
I was just
more
gonna,
modern history. Well, you got to jump on those ideas,
I was
Coke.
gonna,
We out here,
yeah,
but that's the ingenious to it, right? Like this guy can live forever, so you really get to play around with what years he gets to visit, and then who's to say that he doesn't go even further back, and that's the like sort of Cro-Magnon Man is like, oh god, and then you see what are they called? Neanderthal woman slap him at that time. It's like
which would be funny.
mug
But-
slap.
Well, his existence starts. His story starts in 1775. So there could be some sort of time travel aspect, or they could just jump ahead to like 2100. It's like he's still wearing the red coat. You know, you never like. There are ways they can.
That's kind of the fun of it. You've kind of set us up
Yeah.
with a character who can kind of do anything, and normally we would hate that because there's no real structure to it. But in these first few issues, we're establishing what the rules are to his power set. So this is where our imagination can really go the farthest about him staying in this kind of timeline, or he can really jump around and end up in the 1900s or the 2000s or the 36s, right? So
And that's the benefit of having a character who's immortal. Well, one, immortal, and two, has no real ties to anybody else at this point. It's just kind of, let's put him anywhere that's ahead of this time. And if you want to bring him back, time machine, right? He goes so far in the future, time machines existed.
Yeah.
He can go way back to, like you said.
I mean,
could be a lot of things going on, but it's fun.
When your
It's fun.
sidekick's Albert Einstein, there's nothing to say like, oh, I made this little phone booth over here, and you can jump in that and go time for it. Or I made this weapon that atom bombs come out of, right? So it looks like it's fun in the most historic way, which shouldn't be a thing because we've been tricked into reading for educational purposes stories that were not fun. This seems to be the reverse of that. Of it's fun first, and then there happens to be educational tones that you can kind of pick up if you understand your history.
You ever heard of a show called Da Vinci's Demons?
I have not.
It's a show that was out for a few years, but it was kind of a similar thing where it would follow Leonardo da Vinci, like a young Leonardo da Vinci, doing his thing, but he had different characters that he'd meet along the way, and he was inventing things that I don't think Leonardo ever invented, like a tank and stuff. But it's like, it was cool because he was like this. He was a similar thing. He was like this. Well, he was like this Redcoat, but really super smart. So it's almost like a combination of the Einstein character and the Simon Pure character put together. But then he also meets like Vlad the Impaler, who ends up becoming, like, in mythology, he becomes like Dracula, right? So it's that's what I was kind of relating this to, because that I really enjoyed that show. I think it was only 3 years.
Yeah, from 2013 to 2015.
Yeah, there we go. I watched
created by David S. Goyer, if anybody's looking for it.
David S. Goyer, yeah.
Give it a check.
It was a really fun show though, and it was kind of like this because he was a bit of a womanizer, bit in his own head. He was kind of scatterbrained. He was just really smart, but smart in like that manic way where he was like OCD almost. So it was kind of a variant for
Fair
Simon.
enough. It's odd. You really only had two kind of roles if you're a man in these times, and I'm basing this on From Hell and Redcoat. You're either a womanizer or a serial killer of women. There's no middle ground. There's no like nice man. You're a good husband. You're like, no, secretly I'm going out to slash women's faces.
Shout out to From Hell. That was a good book. That was still a great book. Amazing.
And a even better movie.
What was going on with that movie? What was going on with
that needs a rewatch. We have to do what was it? Two Drunk Bananas for From Hell.
That was, and we covered both of those in that
Hall of Fame.
Hall of Fame was number 52.
Alan Moore.
Alan Moore.
We're getting there.
We covered both of those. That was one of our longest
We're
episodes.
getting up there though. We're almost 52 plus 52, 104.
104,
Yeah, another Hall of Famer to drop.
Anything else you want to say about Redcoat, Simon Pure? No, we talked way longer about that than we did Geiger. So what does that tell you?
It's enjoyable.
way more to dig
and this
at,
one,
yeah.
I feel like the first issue was definitely stronger than the second one. The second one is really like catching us up with all the side characters and what he needs to do, which is fine.
Yeah.
But that first one is so charming and funny and like light, and you think it's going to be heavy exposition, and it's not. He really just explains like, this is me. But the way that they do the storytelling and the cutting between the paneling, especially with like the thirds of like, I did this in 1772 and this in 1892 and this in 1882, like that helps give you a character kind of analysis for who Simon Pure is going to be. Like, this guy's always going to be a fuck up until he's forced into being the hero. So a really good reluctant hero type of book.
It is. And then move on to Rook Exodus. Okay, so this is...
Would you read this book if it was called Smelly Helmets? Same story. Nothing's changed except the same lettering that they use for Rook Exodus is called Smelly. So Smelly's first and then Helmets.
I wouldn't, but I would read Smelly Beast Helmets.
All right, that's fair. That's fair.
Smelly
From
Beast
beasties to beast machines. All right, I got you.
Okay, so we have to cover that, man. I remember. Did I tell you? I'm sure I have. I rewatched BC. Well, it was Beast Wars, the one I bought, but it was Beasties. I rewatched that as like young adult, and I was like,
This is great.
The first season's kind of just like Monster of the Week type stuff, but when they get into the second season with all the
changings and stuff, and like the pods dropping
and the serials, the storylines are way more serial.
Yeah.
Like, man, there's like double crosses and
like the weird love story that happens and stuff like that. Yeah.
It was when you think about it, like, these are fucking robots. It was like, it takes you out, but if you just kind of ride along with
but then they jump the shark and then they're like, we have to, when he put the spark into his own, without spoiling it for people, at a certain moment,
that was weird.
They find the ark and then he has to take the spark, and I was like, no, like why? He could have done so many things.
But it was the build up to that, which was amazing. Like, Tarantulas is like its own thing, but then he makes an alliance again with Megatron.
It's only because Megatron does like the unthinkable, and that's the reason why he has to take the spark. Like he takes the best possible. Like, that's the greatest villain move, right? Like, it's like, I've secured my future without you having yours. Mm-hmm. But the fallout, like, they couldn't. There was no weight that could happen out of that fallout.
No.
Like, if that show got canceled off there, I'd be like, I'd cry, but that's the best show ever. Like, how do you beat that ending?
And then they changed it. to like, they went back to
Cybertron. It became, I don't have the word, but it was so, like, ghostly. And things were changing. Like, like the look, you
might as well, I was like, it's like, you might as well just start a new show. Like,
it would have been smarter. I mean, the effects got better, but then, like, they made Rat Trap look like a pussy, and I was like, I can't take this anymore.
Yeah,
Cheetor looked better and everything. Like, Black Arachne looked cool and stuff like that, but it was weird. I don't know if they had a full story.
No, I don't know what happened there. It must have been some sort of studio. Back then, it's always like studios fucked it up.
Studio did it.
When you think about it. Studios fucked it up and they had to restart it, and the story didn't get. Anyways, we'll find out. I feel like we have not done Transformers.
So we're gonna do Beast Wars 97?
Maybe. Don't push me.
Are you that close to the edge? We're getting there.
I am. Okay, so Rook Exodus. Planet F is what they live on, but it was purchased and terraformed by Better Earth in 2152. Rebranded as Exodus a year later, colonized a few years later from that in 2159, and eventually abandoned in 2171 after the world engine went down a year prior. So a lot of dates there, a lot of weird things, but basically they buy a planet, they advertise it like this new, like, leave Earth and come to this planet where everything is controlled. Like, humans actually control the ecosystem they live in, the wildlife, the plant life. I think even the oxygen content. It was they control everything. The wildlife they control with these certain helmets they give to wardens, right? So the hired help have been there for 2 years now. So now it's 2173. So we're going on about 20 years.
Okay, before you get into the real story, I will say this is one of my favorite intro pages that I've ever gotten in a comic. You know how we usually get like a blurb of like, this is what's going on in the story, and this is in terms of world building and letting me know what the tone is. The fact that they just had one page of what the world is, and kind of you see the debris and the destruction, but they just gave us all the basic tones of it. Like, it was like aliens, like it was like I can't think of a sci-fi, like Event Horizon. Like, like you're just out of the middle of nowhere, and the fact they gave me just the bullet point brackets of it, completely immersed me into what I was going to read next, because it turns into heavy exposition after this. But I really loved how clean the Kepler system, Planet F, read when I first saw it.
Yeah, I agree because it's a lot to
Yeah.
take in, and if it was just a big
Like
paragraph,
a Star Wars rant, I'd be like, I don't want to.
like when you first start
Yeah.
the book,
It's
it's
too
like,
much.
oh man, your eyes
Yeah.
gloss over. It's like
Half the
I
time
don't
you
wanna
skip
read
it,
all
you're just
this
like,
shit.
if I need to come, I'll read it at the end.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'll come back to it.
I don't need this now. I want to read the book.
But you're right. This one was like just bullet
Yeah.
form. I just kind of summarized it a bit with some words in between.
It's
but-
not.
excuse me. All I took was
it's
the
like-
dates.
13 words in total and just 1,
Yeah.
2, 3, 4, 5 dates. So it was beautiful, especially for what we now know what this book is. Completely perfect in understanding what the universe and the world that they were building.
So the hired help have been there for 2 years, like I was saying, and everybody who had paid to be there turned in their refunds and left the place deserted. Right. So they use it as like a come live here, leave Earth, come live on this planet. We control everything. It's gonna be safe. But what happens is like 20 years in, or just shy of 20 years in, the system fails, like the engine fails, right? So they're like, okay, we can't sustain this. So everybody went back to Earth. They paid in their refunds and went back
Right.
to Earth. Now the hired help is just stuck there, all these wardens and stuff, and they don't know how to get off. Well, that's a cool story. And then these wardens have
Powers.
helmets that let them control certain species of so like the main guy Rook, he controls crows and
And
ravens.
each helmet is crafted to look like the animal that they inhabit. It's kind of the Power Ranger of them, right?
Yeah, very Power Ranger. It's like what you think of as like a 10-year-old creating like a story with your toys. It's like, oh, this is kind of cool. But then they just give it a deeper narrative with the years and stuff.
And better names, because if it's 10-year-old, I'd be like, this is Raven Guy. This is Bareface. Yeah, bare faces.
Yeah. So they people that are left there do try and like build their own ships and leave, but they're so budget these ships they usually can't even make it past the clouds or the solar system, so they just break apart. So Rook and his buddy Swine, they've been putting together a ship of their own that they're confident will be able to actually survive leaving the
Solid
planet.
plan.
Yeah.
Easy motivation.
Swine's not sure he wants to leave, but Rook's like, no, we gotta get the fuck out of here. Like this is not good. But what's interesting too is like the helmets. They talk about the helmets, and if you leave them on for too long, the animals, like the sensibilities of the animals, start to get in your head. Whereas like Rook like disassociates with any kind of empathy because he's just connected to these birds that have like these bird brains. All they want to do is eat and survive. So when like people die around him, he realizes like I don't care. He's like, I take this helmet off, so he'll take the helmet off to sleep. But then when the helmet's off, you can't control the animals anymore, right? So it's like it's catch-22.
And I really liked how they showed Rook's like day of, which is essentially just foraging. Like I liked when he was in the apartments and just painting X's off of like I've been in this one and in this, but every day is kind of the same thing, the same repetition, right? So you could see it start to eat at him, and more the reason why is like we need to get off of here. I can't stay here anymore, right? So I like the desolate, I like the longing, I like the lack of empathy, but I like that you're really figuring out who this guy is when he doesn't say anything because he goes and watches movies by himself.
Yeah, he's very lonely and very like he's only driven by escape. He just wants to leave the planet. He doesn't even know what kind of shape Earth is in. We don't even know what kind of shape Earth is in because this is like 150 years from where we are now, right? So, but we're introduced to a couple other characters. Direwolf. We learn that. You know what I like about the Direwolf thing is that right off the bat, like, yeah, we used to have history. So it's not like this, like, will they, won't they thing. It's like, no, we have history.
We did this. So now we can see, can we actually function?
I was like, thank you. That just kind of gets rid of that whole, like, tension there. It's just kind of like, yeah, they probably will again.
I mean, there's nobody left on this world. So,
yeah. So why wouldn't you?
Last woman on the world.
It's either that or birds, right? Like,
At what point do you think he thought that? It's like, hey, bird, can you?
I don't think I take this helmet off.
This bird,
like canary.
Yeah, this bird's doing a little dance. I don't know what's going on here. Okay, take it off. Take it off. Take it off.
No, fuck this. I'm not putting it off for a week. Yeah.
Take it off.
But again, she doesn't want to leave either. Like, she strongly doesn't want to leave. Direwolf, I mean, because it turns out she is the OG warden, and her father actually helped create and engineer the entire project. And so but then she tells him, him being Rook, like, I know how to fix it. We can fix the world engine, which is not something that he even like considered.
No.
So at this point,
and then kind of add a character for him too, right? So you'd have to make a complete character change. If I was like, all right, cool, I'll fix it. I'll build with you, right? It's his old life versus his new life.
Well, you kind of understand at this point. You have this stalemate, right? Where she doesn't want to leave, he doesn't want to stay, but she apparently has a way to fix the world engine. You kind of, for me, I'm like, all right, I know what's going to happen here, and what I think happens does happen. But at the same time, there's
still other threats and obstacles that they have to deal in the world,
and things that I didn't
like
see.
The giant turtle.
The giant turtle was cool. Oh yeah, so that's another thing too. Is all these because of the way the world was created, and I think something about the radiation from the helmets or something like that, or just the atmosphere of the world. Animals grow much larger than they would on Earth.
Awesome.
So that's like, oh, this is like childlike wonder. It's like, oh, this is a world full of monsters, because there's a snapping turtle that's like the size of almost like a football. Yeah, there you go, a whale. And he's like, they had to fight him. Rook has to fight him off, and
Scrog.
I mean, that's meals for his birds forever. Another thing I didn't consider that this book answers is like, what happens if someone who isn't a warden puts a helmet on?
Ah,
right. That I didn't see coming. I was like, that's interesting, because that does happen in this, and they kind of just go, because the wardens have like, even though they don't have a job anymore technically, they're still disciplined.
There's a level of training and understanding of how this works and what I'm entrusted with, right?
Yeah, and even like you could maybe say even a code.
Yeah, that works.
But if you're not a warden and you put that helmet on, oh man, I can control snakes now. Let's go. I'm gonna ride some just giant snakes, right? For example, that doesn't happen in this, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
we don't know.
Yet, and that's the interesting thing, because it ends on an interesting note, bit of a cliffhanger, and it's like, all right, do I want to know what happens next? Right? So out of these three books, this one is the one I want to know happens the most, or I'm the most interested in what happens next.
So like, you framed that question differently than how I would have answered it. Like, do I want to finish this story now so I can find out what's happening next? Yes, but which one would I read further? It's probably Redcoat. Like, which one am I enjoying reading? Yeah. It's Redcoat first.
Redcoat is the most
because it's funny
to read. Yeah,
this one is like, oh, okay, there's a world here. Like, there's gravity, there's circumstances, and people are going to die. There's room for dark humor, but there's not. Like, if I'm laughing, it's only because I thought something was funny from my sense of humor, but nothing's really written to be like, oh, this guy who just killed swine, he's also a joker. Ha ha ha. Right? So that's the only pullback from why it's not winning, but like, it's definitely a story. Like, I feel like they knew what the story was before they even put pen to paper. Like, I think they know everything that's going to happen.
Oh yeah.
And I appreciate that as someone that's like, if you're going to give me a contained story, I like that you knew that there was a beginning, middle, and end. So yes, to what you're answering, how you questioned it, like, which story do you want to keep reading to find out what happens? It is Rook. I agree.
But also at the same time, I think we feel pretty much the same with this. Like, it's Rook is the most interesting, but Redcoat's the most fun. However, I think that
and Gagger's the most comic.
I would find. Yes, exactly. Yeah, and they're all good in their own ways, but I think you and I have similar interest in that. I could be wrong, but I think we have similar ones at least. Where Rook, I could find myself getting the most lost in, because there's so much there. But Redcoat is like the easier.
Yeah, I could pick it up, throw it away, pick it up, throw it away. Rook's like, next month, okay, like, it dropped today. I want to read this so I can get ready for what's happening next.
Exactly.
My question to you is, without using any animals that have been revealed, what animal helmet would you put on your head? Now, keep in mind the world that you're living in, because that changed what my answer was going to be, as did the previous book that we read. Because I'll give you my answer first if you want that, what you think.
Yeah.
I would have said something different, but because we read, what's the one with the mice that we just read? Scurry. I thought rat, and because rats are fucking geniuses, and then to have like giant rats and like Ratcatcher, and you see like rats kind of, they're on the upswing in terms of superheroes, right? We've seen them more in pop culture than ever before. Yeah. I feel like me with a rat helmet would probably get a lot done and a lot found than anything else in this type of environment.
You know what's so funny is like I thought of my mind went to animals in Scurry too.
Nice.
But I went for bats.
Ah, very cool.
Because it'd be like there's so many of them, and if they're bigger than normal, and like you want sonar and like looking for things and stuff, it was like. But it's funny because they both have their advantages. Right?
It's also funny we both went to like rodents.
Small things that just kind of like swarm people,
knowing that they're going to be big when they come over here.
We could have gone for like moose. I want a bunch of moose.
They were like giant, but like pointless. Like they don't do anything. They just stand in water. Like, fuck you.
It's gonna stomp on everything. You're a giant moose. If it's snapping, it grows the size of a whale in this. These moose are gonna be like those walkers in Star Wars. Like
AT-AT with just giant like, turds following.
Yeah. Oh, that's a.
But they'd be so cost efficient. I can't afford to feed me and this giant, like this pack of moose. See? Weakness. Well, I need to snap a leg.
They are vegetarians, though. So they would just be eating they'd be eating whole trees.
Coke, you've read 2 books of this. What green have you seen in this environment? Yeah, there's no. They're eating birds now. Like they've adapted.
Yeah, that's funny. I didn't even think of what animal I'd want.
But I'm excited in terms of, we're still talking about Exodus and Rook. They've kind of shown towards the end who the antagonist is going to be and who the head warden is with the giant bear.
Yes.
And he looks like a big bad boss. So.
And that's the interesting thing that we've found here. Like, this is the only book that has a clear-cut villain at this point. Redcoat kind of does, but it's more of an entity, right? Like the cultists.
And then Benedict, depending on how deep it's going to get.
And Geiger's the same way. It's like the government. It's like,
there's no face to that. Anyone can be kind of a turncoat.
Exactly what I was going to say. I like when my villains have a face, even if it's like not a villain to come for a while. As long as we know, okay, this is.
I like when my villains have the same or exact same similar power set, so it looks like I'm fighting a mirror of myself, in order to truly feel like I've conquered.
You're a son of a... I don't. Oh, that's right. By the way, here we go. I was gonna say I don't know what I was gonna say, but
I like that you did that onto the camera, and then I actually saw the revelation of like, oh no, I actually have more to say, and it clicked into your head. And you're like, all right, go back to the mic.
Yeah,
they just wheel out of here.
We talked about which one we go on, but there are some. The next ones up actually come out next month. The Tales of the Unnamed Blizzard, Hyde Street. That's next month. And then in October, they have Hyde Street, Solace, and Devour.
I'm so curious about Hyde Street coming off of when we did that run because we had no idea what's going on. And it's just typically like this one street that weird stuff happens on. So,
yeah, that's so am I. And then November is going to be the Rockefellers, Hornsby, and Halo. And then at some point, there's going to be Junkyard Joe.
Yeah, Junkyard Joe. They said Junkyard Joe coming next month.
Yeah, I think they're all over the place. They're all over the place because he's like Tales of the Unnamed, right? Which is so they're different. They're different sects. Like so, Geiger's in the future, so he's like the Unnamed. So they're gonna be like related, and then I think Redcoat might be part of that universe, but then like Rookie Exodus is a way over his own thing, and then like the Rockefellers and Hornsby and Halo are their own thing, and then Hyde Street and the Solace and Devour are all on the same street because Devour is that book. Remember that the one lady picked up at Hyde Street.
Oh, okay. Yeah, like the within it. Yeah.
Yeah. So they all have like these little pockets.
Do you think they're building?
Almost like a Venn.
Do you think they're building for like a crossover sort of issue or event where in whatever time place you are, you're going to meet someone else from that time kind of area?
I would think so.
Especially with Redcoat. Goddamn, you literally could pop him up anywhere.
You pop anywhere, yeah. That's what I mean. So you could just jump him into Geiger's universe, easy, because it's just a time placement.
Right? You can put a smelly helmet on him and put him into Exodus.
Yeah. What animals we? Yeah.
Skunk.
two-headed wolf.
You'll be like a deer or something. Is this something?
Yeah,
Something seemingly noble, but usually gets hunted.
Kind of I was just gonna say like a rabbit.
Yeah, see, exactly.
That everything eats.
You understand what I'm saying? It's like a hamster. A hamster? How dare they pick a hamster for me?
Yeah, that'd be funny. Hamster or guinea pig. But yeah, that's Ghost Machine so Mars. Like when we drop this, there'll be the issues 3. So jump on it. Are you gonna read any of these right away?
No.
I might read. I might read Rook number 3.
You know why I'm not gonna read this right away?
Because nobody
Damn
cares.
it! Stole it again.